Hello everyone, welcome back on Do Why Code, my YouTube channel. And this time I am again with one concept which is a web worker. I have already uploaded existing video which is a dedicated worker, but since then I didn't get much time. Now I'm back again with all the concept, which is a dedicated worker, share worker, and service worker. Frankly speaking, this is one of the very interesting concept, and where you will be if you use it, you will find this is very useful and a very good user experience you will get it. So this time I am displaying all the three concept with the demo. I will not be writing a code as at the moment, but that is already ready with me. So what I'll do, I'll quickly go to the demo first, and then I'll explain you the code. So here's the list. So first I'll go with the dedicated worker demo, which is kind of an image processing. At this moment, let me quickly open the developer tools because I have added the console logs. You would be able to see it, and also you would be able to see on the UI. So if you see right now, I'm hovering over the button, which is start processing, test UI responsive, correct? So like that, you can see it's little uh, g- giving you a little glimpse. When I hover, the little background color gets changed, correct? So this is one thing, correct? So now if I am using a web worker, how it will respond, and if I'm not using a web worker, both examples I have put it over here so that we can do a comparison. So first one is a dedicated worker. So think about like you have a process of image processing simulation, which I took an example. And if we are using without a web worker, then how our screen get behave, or how the user experience happens, correct? So ideally, first I tell you, there's a UI counter. If I click on the test UI responsiveness, correct, it will be giving an increment one. Like I just given one, it become a 2. Now you can see on the right hand side, it's a UI converter counter, basically, become a 2. So now let me start it. Like suppose we have done some intensive work, we have some intensive work like image processing. If I start it and then I'm clicking over here, you can see the intensive work process is started, and then finally, meanwhile I was pressing the test UI responsive, you can see it iterated, but it did not increment the count. I mean, it did not show you the process because the main thread was blocked, and it was not much responsive. And once that this image process is completed, and then the counter was incremented. Now what I'll do, I'll clear this one, and I'll do the image processing with the web worker. So you can see how it will be a non-blocking process, correct? So I am pressing, you can see when it is processing the images, but meanwhile it is also printing me the number, like, so it is kind of non-blocking process. So if you have any heavy intensive work, you can see the user experience, how it will, how it is a game changer for your web application, correct? So this is one of the very good example I've just given. Maybe you will find some more useful example for your use case, correct? Now let me go with the second example, for which is a shared worker. So I thought it to give it a two example, but I'll go with the multiplayer game. So you will see that how the timer is behaving. It is quite interesting. So let me open it. I open its game. So I would need to open a new window as well. So let me open a new window. Let me do it side by side. So this is a right hand side, and another is a left hand side. So we have two windows. It will behave for them. So you can think of it's like a multiplayer game. So in a multiplayer game, the timer will remain same for both of them, and the scores will also be getting incremented, correct? And the other side, we are using the local storage of the browser, but it will not be that sync will not be there, correct? Because this is handling within the main thread of the UI, correct? And this is a web worker, basically is a shared worker which is running into a browser separate thread, correct? So you can think of ideally JavaScript is a single threaded language, but I won't say it's a multi-threaded language, but you can think of like you you are having intensive work separately running, and then it comes back to your your UI. It does not hang your UI, correct? So let me show you first. If I start a game, new game started, you can see both the side. The timer is not getting increased. Correct. So let me give the answer for it. Like it's 11. No, it's a 12. Sorry, minus 12. And then if I enter answer submitted, but it is not reflected over here. If I give it minus 12, then it is get updated. Look, both the side it is giving it like that, correct? So this way it is not sync first of all, and the timer also not. So if I do the refresh, correct? Ideally what is happening, like I just maintain on a refresh, this should increment how many total connection are established. Therefore it is incrementing the size 3. So you can see player size 3 is there, 3 is there. Right now you can ignore it, but over here if you see it, like it's a two players only. It's not um, mm, collected the count of how many players are at the moment on online, correct? And the timer is also not going. So now we'll move to the scenario where the web worker is there. It's a real time processing, it is happening, correct? Let me, okay, click back again over here. Let me start again either of the window. I just started. You can see the timer is actually running both the screens. You can see two players are playing. So let me, my maths is completely wrong. Please pardon if I am doing something wrong. So you can see first player answer. So it's player ID of year or how, and the total number of the question which is corrected. Both the site is implemented. So now if 15 plus 17 is like 32. If I'm wrong, okay, I'm not wrong, correct? Both the answer given by the one player, correct? Okay, and you can see the player ID is also different, correct? So over here, if second player is also giving minus answer 12 minus 20, it's at 8 minus 8. You can see the player ID is this, and then it is giving the total number of questions. So now if I 9 plus 4 is 13, 6 minutes left, and is 110. If I give, you can see so total number of questions given by the first player is a 2, and second player total number 3. You can see is how simultaneously it is um, incrementing the number, and how two players are basically seeing each other's scores and the timer as well. It's like an online game we can implement if you have a very good example. Also, I remember once in a one of my company when I was working, there was I built a tool which is called online bidding kind of system. So at that moment, I did not use this concept web worker, but I used this signal R. Later I'll tell you how it works, but similarly you can think of that one. And the heavy intensive work it is doing over here, that is a different concept, but this is also a different concept. And just to showcase you, like it could be how it could be a game changer for you if you are using a heavy intensive work with the real time you need to give it, correct? So those many things, like it will give you a sync, but the point is like it will be directing with the a single host, correct? And you will be having how many users are there, correct? So you can take a look, correct? So this is my second example, which is the shared worker and local storage, how it is behaved. Local storage dependent on the browser only, and this is completely dependent on the particular worker. I'll show you the code how it is behaving like that. Okay, so before going to the any other code, let me first let before going to any other example, let me go to these two code. First is a dedicated worker. So let me open the my code, Visual Studio Code. Let me close this one. So there is a dedicated worker. I have created one index.html file, and within that one we have the code. You can see over here we have without worker, and there's a right side is a with worker, correct? So we have html code, and we have some button where starting the process worker, and starting the process, correct? Which is a, it's a non-worker, it's a worker process. Okay, now if I'm going to the main file, I'm explaining it again. Let me go to the at the end of the code. Okay, over here whenever this file loads, it is taking the elements of the html by when the JavaScript file loads, you can see that it is registering the worker. And okay, how this worker is coming, you can see we have the worker and the web worker. This is a syntax where you define your worker, and all this worker related code I have put it in separate file. I'll come on to this one, but this is a one worker file. Then I registered the worker over here in my JavaScript, and based on this one, I there's a one method which is basically listening on it. So whenever you are doing some action, you can go it like this is a communication between your worker and your main file, correct? So if some messages come from there, it will be listening over here, and based on that message type, it will be behaving particularly, correct? So if there is a start processing, like it is a starting a process. So if I go to the HTML file, let me open it. Okay, let me drag it over here. Okay, I feel it. This is a quite easy way. So let me go with the with web worker example. So if I go inside the start processing, so where is my method? Yeah, start processing. Yeah, this is the method. So when I reached over here, and when it is somebody is pressing the button start process, it is actually telling the worker status starting the process and worker progress value to 0, and then it is posting a message. So this worker we have already seen, we have registered over here with the worker file, and from over here we are posting a message, then giving a command process. You can give it as per your choice. I mean, this is as per example I just given command process and passing some data like which what is the image data. This one for your information, I'm not doing any kind of image processing right now. It is just looped it so that I can show you that heavy intensive work is happening, correct? I'll take you there. So this is a command process, and if I go to the worker file, I bring it over here. Under the worker file, you can see we have a self, which is a dedicated worker script. So basically, you already know in JavaScript is self, you define it as a self object is coming, correct? So as we post the message over here, worker dot post message, it listens over here. Likewise, whenever it will post from over here workers, it will listen over here like on message, correct? This way, I mean, you can say between both the files, it will be interacting. Pardon me. Okay. Now, in this process, when it receives the command process, it goes over the image processing, process image method, and then pass the values, and it is not doing anything. But I just put it the um, one for loop over here. Okay. So for this one, like height and width, we are simulating it, nothing else. It's just for loop, just to showcase you. It is doing something, some process, uh, and I'm pressing the button, correct? Meanwhile, if you see, there's a perform task button. I'm going there. I'm passing the worker and non-worker. Let me go over here. Okay, so type of the what type of it, it's a worker process, worker method is there. Perform UI task means that incrementing the button. So you can see over here counter element text context, which is over here counter element, yeah, worker counter. So it took the counter element somewhere over here. Sorry, worker counter. Okay, worker counter, you can find it out over here. Counter has is inside the variable of the worker counter. And if I see over here, you can see counter element worker. If it is a type of the worker, the counter, current counter element has a worker counter, correct? And then in the worker counter text content, then I am putting the type of this one and the UI counter type. I'm incrementing it already over here, correct? First, likewise, once it is completed, it sends a message like post completed. So you would see, we'll be listening it over here. You can see the message is received over here. From over here we have a post message. So think of like it is a post message, it is coming to there, it is telling you, and within your main thread it is listening it, correct? It will get to know, okay, the worker has completed the work, therefore you were able to see the message like it is completed, process is completed, correct? Now let's move to the second example which I created over here, which is the share worker under that multiplayer game. So it is similar to that one. We have a multiplayer game, correct, where which is a game.js is a main file. Under that one, I have a um, one worker process. Okay, let me go to the down. Okay, first initialize shared worker. So if I go into this method, let me go there. Okay, under that one, I'm creating a shared worker process, which is over here, shared worker worker.js. Again, this is a file which it is referring to. Then we have the share on message, and then we have the game state, player count, and correct answer. Correct. These are the stated over here. So whenever we are listening from a message from worker, then it will be coming over here because it will be showing. Now, if I open the HTML file as well, okay. Now when I click on the start worker game, this is a shared worker, and if I go under this method start worker, it goes into the shared worker start worker dot post dot message type start game. So this start game type of message will be under the post. It will be on message. It listened, it has started the game. So you can see there is a concept of single responsibility. It is not giving a whole responsibility to this main dot your main file, which is a game.js. It is delegating the process and telling you, hey, there is a, I'm just giving a command and whole responsibility of this worker JS, correct, which is very good. Like in this case, you have completely a worker.js which is handling this uh, this complete process separately, correct. So over here we have a start game. Under this start game method, the game problem is coming, and the game state we have already one interface which is a game state. You can see with active problem answer timer, like, which is a 60-second by default, and scores we are handling it, correct. So it is now in the worker, it is adding the game state and clearing the interview game, clearing the interval, sorry, clearing the interval, and then broadcasting it. So with this one broadcast, it is coming over here. I think this is, yeah, game state. Okay, type of game state and data, game data, okay, it is broadcasting it. Now if I see, I think I have over here, broadcast means it will whatever the connections are available to this particular host and this worker, it will broadcast it to all those connections. So you can see in our multiplayer game, if I show you over here in multiplayer game, we have two different user, but how the data will broadcast to it. If you do not use the broadcast, it will be one-to-one communication. If it is a broadcast, it's a one-to-many. So from your server to multiple end user, you are basically directing to the data. Correct. So game state is over here. Game state, it broadcasted, it reached over here. Hey, it is saying like I listen the message on port, because it's listening it, correct, all the time, correct. And game state is like it reach over here, update the worker state, game state, it went over here, it is updating it, just a normal JavaScript. Then further it is updating the timer, state the problem, waiting for the new game, correct, like that over. Okay, so this is one example. And open a new window, just opening into the blank tab. And here is a one thing, one important interesting thing I show you. Where is the number of the problem, player, number of the list, game timer, problem, okay, number, answer. So this is the one thing, like if you have worker dot answer, if I go with this one under my game one, you see I have this worker answer as correct. And then if I search it, I have the add event listener. So whenever I'm filling the value answer into this text box, I'm entering it. I'm pressing the enter button, and then we have a key press, and it is finding the value, enter. And if it is an answer, then it is posting a message, which is an answer. This answer is listened by the worker process. If you see over here, answer, yeah. So once the answer received game state is active because we have a time over here. We are passing it. The game state is active, message is an answer, and dot answer equal to game answer. Then it is updating a score, and further it is broadcasting like correct answers. So correct answer is again further is going over here, and it is broadcasting. Correct. So this way you have got to know how from a single server and multiplayer online game is handling with the help of the web worker. It is not blocking your main thread. Correct. Now I quickly go to the our next example, which is shared worker. So for this one, I created two example. One is offline data to appear in a, from a JSON, and another one is similar like that, but it's a weather widget. Like you would be able to see weather widget. Okay, over here. This is nothing. So here what I try to do, you have a online network right now. My network is up, and we have two screen. Green color is with a service worker, another is without service worker. It's a network dependent. So service worker giving you an offline capability, correct, and your user will not see an issue if a network goes down, correct. So this will be a very helpful. However, there are some scenario where user you can use the local cache, correct, and shared cache. But again, they are shared cache. If you have some sub server, it is again dependent on the network. Anything which is on dependent on the network can be caused if the network failure, your user will see user experience issue, correct. In that case, we implemented the offline capability. Like we have currently the widget of the weather, and right now it's a 22 degree Celsius, partly cloud. Right now when we add it over here, correct, and it is filling up from the file, data is coming. Now what I do, I click on the switch off my network. At this moment you see this right side, which is dependent on the network, is goes offline. I mean both are offline now, but the data is not coming, which is not connected, correct. Now if I refresh the weather, you can see still it is coming, but it is 6 milliseconds. It's timer is still running, but the data is not coming, correct. Now if I go back again, switch on my network, you see the data will come. But in this case you would have seen it, the user did not face any issue. The data was still appear because it was being like cached, or it was service worker which was running, and your background which was taking care of it, correct. So you can see how it is helpful. It like if I clear the cache, correct, I let me toggle the window, refresh the weather. It is actually refreshing. It won't show you right now. Let me stop it again. You can see 436 right now, 436, 37 now, correct. So if I make it and refresh it again, the data is still there. You can see the data is coming because the time is coming. It's offline state and cached data. Correct. It's a browser cache only, correct. And if I switch on, then you can see 436 is a 437. Let I think the data to appear, update how it is 437, but data is still from there 436. If I just refresh it, now it is updated. You can see it from the offline, but you did not face the offline problem. I hope these example will be very helpful for you, and you would find a very good other example to implementing these concept. Do let me know and mention in the comment box if you have any good use case of it. Let me go to the code as well. Let me explain you. So I have a service worker. I'll go with the weather widget. Again, it's the same thing, similar one in the stored HTML5. We have offline JSON data. I have also README file, which will help you to understand how the data is appearing, how to test on all that. I will upload on my GitHub account, and will also mention there. So this is a weather app, and you can see we have the left side this time the service worker. Okay, and so over here, okay, let me go inside this one, how it is appearing. Okay, so it's a init method. Under init method we have a has service worker, register service worker. If you go inside this method, register service worker. Okay, register service worker. Okay, first we are checking on the browser navigator is service worker in the navigator. Basically, this is a JavaScript API which is helping you to understand whether this is supported by the browser or not. If not, then it will return false. Otherwise, it will navigator.service register. You need to give your service worker in a separate file and give you the name of it over there. One thing you need to take care that every time you should have this code separately in separate JS file. Correct. Then it is whether service registered and whether widget service worker registered. Correct. Then further it is refresh the weather. Refresh weather is a weather with the worker and weather with without worker. So if I first go with the weather with worker, then the performance dot now it is again a JavaScript file API which is helping you to get the timer. Correct. And performance dot now and the timer, then you will get the total load time. Correct. This how you can identify what is the actual time taken. Correct. So it is when rendering the weather worker. So over here is basically weather container HTML. It is giving you the data dot current dot temperature. Feels like this is a data. This is very, I mean, just a simple JavaScript. Correct. It will help you to understand. Correct. I'll upload this code on my GitHub, and feel free to go through it. Correct. Okay. So that's it for now. I will say do give it a try. This is a very good and powerful example, like whether you use the service worker, whether you use the worker process, whether you use the shared worker, or whether you use the dedicated worker. This is a dedicated worker, correct? So for now, thank you. I'll say thank you. Do like, subscribe my channel for further update.